He walked into my home with a backpack and a smile. Without realizing it, he crossed more than just my doorstep. He crossed into my quiet, carefully built life. My name is Samantha Wells, 50 years old, single, and the head of a successful communications agency in New York. My days had long been filled with meetings, deadlines, and distant hotel rooms. I'd built everything I'd dreamed of: a reputation, independence, respect. But along the way, I'd built something else too: silence. A golden, comfortable silence that over time became my only companion. That day, nothing was supposed to change. Ethan, the son of my closest friend, Jeanette, was coming to New York for a photography internship. Jeanette, stuck in Paris, had asked me a favor. Just for a few weeks, Sam. He's quiet, polite, you'll barely notice him. When I opened the door, I saw a tall young man, camera slung over his shoulder, his smile unassuming yet sincere. "Hello, Miss Samantha," he said. And I laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard from myself in months. "Just Samantha," I replied. That evening, we talked over a simple dinner. He asked questions that weren't just polite, they were curious, thoughtful. He wanted to know how I started my agency, what inspired me, what I dreamed of when I wasn't working. And before I knew it, I was answering with a kind of warmth I'd long forgotten. He spoke of photography with a spark in his eyes. I like capturing people when they're not posing. When they forget someone's watching, that's when they're real. Something in those words stayed with me. For the first time in years, I wondered what I looked like when I wasn't trying to appear strong. In the days that followed, his quiet presence began to echo through my routines. Every morning, I'd find a cup of coffee waiting for me, the same spot, a small note beside it. "Have a good day, Samantha." Simple gestures, but in a house long ruled by silence, they meant everything. I caught myself listening for the sound of the door in the evening, the soft rhythm of his steps, the calm tone of his voice. My days were still busy, but the nights felt different. One evening, after a long day, he appeared with 2 glasses and a bottle of wine. "You need a break," he said, smiling. We talked for hours about New York, about dreams, about how fast time runs when you're too focused on tomorrow. He listened the way few people ever did, not to respond, but to understand. When he said, "You always seem strong, but sometimes you don't have to be," I felt something in me shift. Not because of his age, but because his honesty touched something no one had reached in years. A few days later, I was reading by the window while he worked on his laptop. The evening light painted the room in gold. He looked up and said softly, "You have this light when you're not trying to please anyone." I smiled awkwardly, unsure how to respond. But those words lingered. They weren't romantic, they were real. They made me feel seen, not as the professional woman everyone admired, but as a person. It was a rainy evening when the fragile balance between us changed. The sound of the storm filled the house. I was cooking just to keep my mind busy, and he stood nearby, quietly watching the rain. "You always cook when it rains," he said. "It calms me," I answered. For a moment, the air grew still. He looked at me with that same honest gaze, the one that never demanded, never judged. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between us, a recognition, a warmth neither of us had intended but couldn't ignore. I stepped back, unsure of what to say. He smiled faintly and whispered, "I'm sorry." But the look in his eyes said more than any apology could. From that night on, things were different. We spoke less, but felt more. There was an invisible understanding, something fragile, beautiful and impossible all at once. One evening, he found me by the fireplace reading again. He sat quietly beside me, his presence both calm and disarming. The flicker of the fire cast soft shadows on the walls. "You shouldn't have come," I whispered. "I know," he said, but I couldn't stay away. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Sometimes silence says everything. When his hand brushed mine, it wasn't bold. It was gentle, hesitant, almost afraid. But it was enough to remind me I was alive, that I could still feel something more than comfort and control. That night, nothing was said, nothing needed to be. Just two people from different worlds, different ages, sitting in the quiet glow of something real. Later, when I looked at the photo he'd taken of me days earlier, my face soft, unguarded, I understood what he meant when he said, "That's the real you." For the first time in years, I saw her too.